You were at that press conference, weren't you? And you even asked a question to her. Just give us, though, first of all, your overall impressions, because, you know, a lot of people talking about hearing her voice for the first time. It's a very familiar face and a familiar family picture. But to hear her speaking added a certain perspective we haven't had before.
Absolutely. I mean, we're so used to seeing Richard Ratcliffe on our screens, so passionately campaigning for the last 6 years. But to see the family complete there, to see them sitting next to each other and sort of leaning on each other at certain points.
And looking across to her, Gabriella, as well.
And looking across to her daughter, Gabriella, who was sitting in the front row there. It must have been such a bewildering experience for Gabriella, not even 8 years old, although I have to say she spent a lot of the time on her phone in the front row. It must have been a very overwhelming experience seeing so many journalists in that room, so many big cameras. When she got up to leave at the end, the family left first, and all the cameras were snapping pictures like a sort of paparazzi after them. It must have been a very overwhelming experience. It's no wonder that the family haven't yet been back to their family flat. That was one of the overriding impressions. It's a slow transition back to normality, but that's what this family want, and it's what Richard Ratcliffe said again and again in that press conference. He wants to retire from being a campaigner. He doesn't want to be on TV screens for much longer.
Yeah, you say that. It doesn't look like Nazanin does. I mean, given that she's just arrived in the country, she's making big political statements in her clothing, isn't she? Not just on the plane, but by walking into that press conference very much in the yellow and blue.
She's an impressive individual, but I think she said she doesn't want to be defined by what happened to her.
No, I know, but she clearly is a political animal, certainly an intelligent animal, you know, with thoughts about regimes.
Certainly, and one of the big overriding themes in what she was saying is that she was not the only one. There are many other people still trapped in Iranian prison, many people unjustly, political prisoners, pawns in international games, and she spoke very passionately about the need for those people to be freed. Actually, Roxanne Tabaz, the daughter of Morad Tabaz, was there on the panel as well, brought along by the Ratcliffes, because she has a story about her father, of course, who many people expected to be released at the same time as Nazanin, but sadly wasn't. But I had the opportunity to ask a question there, and I asked about one of the more worrying, more difficult to speak about aspects of this case, and that's the potential for potentially copycat moves now. If the United Kingdom has been seen to pay money to a despotic regime for an outcome, what might be the consequences? I believe we can play a clip of
Great.
Is it a little worrying that the government has been seen to pay Iran in exchange for people being returned to the United Kingdom?
I'm going to jump in on that, Tom. There is a moral hazard, without doubt. A legal debt is not a ransom, but the guys that took Nazanin will be patting themselves on the back and saying, we did well, let's squeeze Roxanne's dad. It is a challenge for the government, for the international community generally, to deal with state hostage-taking. That can't be done just with carrots. It can't. It's a balance, and it needs to be worked out, and the government needs to be brave. And being brave also means being tough. I think it's worthwhile having that conversation in a brave and open and honest way, and we'll see where that takes us.
I thought that was a very moving answer, because Richard Ratcliffe there was saying he didn't have all the answers. And one of the calls from this panel yesterday, led by Tulip Siddiq, the Ratcliffe's MP, was that she'd written to Tom Tugendhat, the chair of the Foreign Affairs Select Committee, to have an inquiry into the whole aspect of this case and Britain's response to hostage-taking more widely.
Okay.